Welcome to Men at the Tap, a podcast of Tapestry Ministries. I'm Gloria, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey with the Tapestry community. It's Sunday, April the 6th, 2025, and we are in the fifth week of the annual Tapestry Sundays in Lent retreat. The theme for 2025 is Receive the Fruits of Lent. Today, we anticipate receiving the fruit of abundant compassion. The Sundays in Lent are designated as feast days, reminding us to celebrate rather than fast. And we are waiting with anticipation for the resurrection of Jesus Christ, which will be observed on Sunday, April 20th, 2025. According to today's lectionary reading, Jesus has already arrived in Jerusalem, and it is now 6 days before Passover begins. But he must keep his promise to his dear friends, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, to come and have dinner with them before Passover. The last time the family called for Jesus, Lazarus was sick, and the sisters sent a message asking him to come and heal him. They really didn't want to bother Jesus, but their brother was ill, and he was all the family they had. The sisters waited and waited, and then Lazarus died. The sisters were heartbroken, wondering why Jesus had not come when they called. 4 days after Lazarus died and was buried, Jesus arrived. The sisters blamed him for Lazarus's death, telling him, "If you had been here, our brother would not have died." Jesus asked them to show him Lazarus's burial place, and when he saw the stone at the entrance of the tomb, he wept. Despite the sisters' objections, he asked that the stone be removed, but they warned him that Lazarus's body had already started to decay and there would be a stench. With a loud voice, Jesus called Lazarus out of the tomb, and he walked out, but he could barely see or walk because his hands and feet were wrapped in strips of linen, and a cloth covered his face. Jesus then asked for them to remove the grave clothes so that he could be freed from them. The lectionary reading comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 12, verses 1 to 8. The dinner party is in progress. Lazarus is reclining at the table with Jesus. Martha is serving a very special meal for Jesus, the honored guest. Martha scanned the expansive dining room of the family home, wondering where Mary was. The next moment, the room began to be filled with the aroma of an expensive perfume. Martha took a deep sniff. That smells like the 12-ounce jar of pure nard that Mary has been holding on to. What was happening? Martha looked toward Jesus as Mary poured the perfume jar on his feet and wiped his feet with her hair. Gradually, the conversations in the room faded as the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Martha smiled and kept serving the guest. The last time Jesus visited their home, Mary sat at his feet, listening intently. Martha was upset because she was handling all the cooking and serving. She asked Jesus to speak to Mary and tell her to come help me in the kitchen. Jesus reminded Martha that everyone has a choice regarding their time, and she should focus on her own affairs. He believed that Mary had made a wise decision for herself, and no one was compelling Martha to cook and serve food. She should only do it because she wanted to. Martha returned to serving the guests at the dinner party and overheard Judas, who would later betray Jesus, complaining that the perfume should have been sold and the money given to the poor. Jesus came to Mary's defense. He told Judas to leave Mary alone. Then Jesus realized something he had never thought of before. Mary grasped what he had been trying to communicate to his disciples, that his death was imminent. The disciples neither believed him nor understood his words, but Mary did. She anointed Jesus with her expensive perfume, which cost as much as a person's annual salary. She poured it over his feet and dried his feet with her flowing hair. Jesus told everyone that Mary was preparing him for his burial. Judas wanted to tell Mary how to use her precious ointment. He objected to her anointing Jesus and believed selling the perfume and supporting the poor would be better. However, the narrator in our text revealed Judas's insincere motives. He said he was already stealing from the communal funds, assuming that no one had noticed. And now he sought more money for himself, using the poor as his excuse. In those times, a slave, a servant, or even the wife of the host of the home would wash the feet of guests. It was considered a lowly job. Mary elevated this common act to an extravagant display of the abundant compassion she felt for Jesus. She believed him when he said he would die, and she thus made preparations for his death. The smell of the perfume filled the room. Death has a smell that reminds us it is close by. Lazarus at the dinner party that evening was another reminder of the presence of death. Lent is a time to remember that death is in the air. To die is part of what it means to be human. But the writer of the lectionary text wants us to know that death will not have the final word. Jesus died on Good Friday, but that was no time for the community of women to prepare his body because the Sabbath was fast approaching. So he was hastily taken down from the cross and placed in a borrowed tomb. Sunday morning is coming. Early that first Sunday morning, A community of women carried their spices toward the tomb to anoint the body of Jesus. And all the while, as they were walking toward the tomb, they were wondering who would remove the stone so that they could enter the tomb. When they arrived, the stone was already gone and the tomb was empty. We have just 2 more Sundays to celebrate and sing. Jesus is alive. He's alive.